In Volume 5, Fang Yuan's past is hinted at across several chapters, most notably in the Refining Perseverance Gu chapter and the Mermaid arc. There, we see an emotional Fang Yuan, a Fang Yuan whose way of viewing the world we can share. Side characters who had a major impact on his previous life are also introduced, Uncle Bigbeard and the mermaid Xie Han Mo. After reading these chapters, a puzzling question kept returning to my mind. Why, in his second life, does Fang Yuan never encounter the Bigbeard or Xie Han Mo, not even through an internal monologue reflecting on their circumstances? The answer I ultimately convinced myself of is as follows. Based on my personal understanding of Fang Yuan and the specific timeline of the novel, his decision not to seek out the Bigbeard or Xie Han Mo in his second life is driven by two fundamental factors: temporal impossibility and the philosophical necessity of his character. The Big-Bearded served as a mentor and spiritual father figure to the young, naive Fang Yuan. He treated Fang Yuan's injuries and taught him the basics of Gu cultivation. However, the narrative purpose of the Big-Bearded is to function as a metaphorical warning against settling down. The uncle confesses to Fang Yuan that in his childhood he wanted to be a hero. In his early youth, he aspired to become a clan leader. As he aged, he was content with becoming an elder. Finally, exiled and elderly, he was satisfied merely with staying alive. This gradual erosion of ambition is the horrifying counter-narrative to Fang Yuan's philosophy. The Big-Bearded settled. He accepted mediocrity and found comfort in it. When the uncle dies, Fang Yuan stands before his grave and makes a vow that defines his future path. He refuses to let life erode his ambition. He rejects the comfort of raising goo worms and living quietly. He declares, "I will not abandon my dreams just because I grow old." We see this clearly in the Footless Bird chapter and the Perseverance chapter. Both represent literal embodiments of Fang Yuan's philosophy. The footless bird dies the moment it stops. When Fang Yuan advanced through the reverse flow river, he was like that footless bird, surrounded by rank 8 Gu immortals. Stopping meant certain death. To Fang Yuan, even thinking nostalgically about his past life with the big-bearded uncle would constitute a form of stopping. As for Xie Han Mo, although she has not yet been born in the current timeline of the novel, the only time Fang Yuan remembers her is when he's under the influence of Mo Yao's will, an event that leads him to discover Mo Yao's manipulation of his emotions. The mermaid arc has already been discussed previously in this video. Fang Yuan recalls being a rank 3 Gu master in the Eastern Sea around 300 years into his first life. He was searching for black oil, one of the most dangerous resources, and nearly died. Xie Han Mo, the saintess of the sea mermaid tribe, finds him washed ashore. Instead of killing him for being human, she saves his life. The narrative states that she was the person he loved more than anyone else in his previous life. This is the only time the author explicitly confirms that Fang Yuan loved someone unconditionally. Fang Yuan was cynical and demonic, while Xie Han Mo was kind and virtuous. Yet she did not judge him. She accepted his dark nature, and he respected her unwavering moral integrity. He chose to help her win the position of saintess, not for profit, but because he wanted to see her succeed. He became his shadow, handling filthy political conspiracies so that she could remain pure. In the current timeline, Fang Yuan is not even 100 years old. In his first life, he met Xie Han Mo when he was over 300. Therefore, in the present timeline, Xie Han Mo has either not been born yet or is merely a child. Fang Yuan destroyed Fate Gu and altered the history of the Eastern Sea and the Mermaid Court. It is highly likely that the specific chain of political events that led to Xie Han Mo becoming a saintess has been erased. In chapter 131, during the quiet moment of introspection, Fang Yuan says, "Humans are like isolated islands floating in the sea of fate. Human encounters are like collisions between these lonely islands, and once they touch, there is an impact. Sometimes islands stick together under names like interest, kinship, friendship, love, and hatred. but in the end, they will separate, moving towards destruction. This is the truth behind life. Here, the core of Fang Yuan's psychological makeup is revealed, not as a character without emotions, as many reduce him to, but as someone who understood emotions so deeply that he transcended them. He loved deeply, was affected deeply, and then distilled from all of it a harsh law. Anything that can become a shackle must be broken before it fully closes. Our search as readers for a moment of nostalgia, a warm memory, or an internal monologue where Fang Yuan recalls the big-bearded or Xie Han Mo is in truth a natural human projection. We seek reassurance, proof that all this cruelty conceals a kind heart that never died. But the novel, deliberately and consciously, refuses to grant us this satisfaction. Psychologically, Fang Yuan is someone who experienced the highest degrees of human attachment and then witnessed their final outcomes: annihilation, betrayal, helplessness, and belated regret. The big-bearded represented a normal life path, one that begins with ambition and ends with forced contentment. Xie Han Mo proved that even the purest and most sincere relationships possess no immunity against the wheel of fate. These two relationships are the experiences that shaped Fang Yuan. Thus, his ignoring them in his second life is not a denial of their importance, but an acknowledgement of their danger. Fang Yuan understands that returning to them, even mentally, would open a crack in his mental resolve. Here, nostalgia becomes a form of stagnation. It is a brief pause on a path that does not permit stopping, just as the footless bird dies only when it tries to land. Even Xie Han Mo, whom the narrative acknowledges as the person he loved more than anyone else, no longer exists in his consciousness as a symbol of love, but as a symbol of exception. And in Fang Yuan's philosophy, exceptions are not foundations upon which one builds. He loved her because he chose to. He helped her because he chose to. But he never allowed that love to become a definition of his identity. We are mistaken when we interpret Fang Yuan's coldness as emotional repression. The truth is, he digested his emotions. To him, emotions are not enemies, but neither are they guides. They are raw materials, something to be used or discarded, but never something to which one hands the steering wheel. This is why his relationships in the second life are always based on functional clarity, alliances, interests, mutual use, without illusions of permanence. I see the quote from chapter 131 as the summary of an entire life. Islands do not hate each other, nor do they love each other. They collide, adhere, and then separate. The problem is not the collision, but the illusion that adhesion is permanent. Fang Yuan is someone who uprooted this illusion entirely. In the end, Fang Yuan is a character who confronted his humanity at its furthest limits and clearly saw the attachment, weakness, and temptation of settling that it carries. He chose not to let it become the final chain that binds him on his path. His true tragedy does not stem from his cruelty or demonic nature, but from his complete awareness of the magnitude of what he loses as he advances without turning back, fully aware that stopping, in a world ruled by movement and struggle, is nothing but another form of death.
Lanterns fade in the evening mist, a broken promise on your wrist. Whispers lie where shadows twist. The moon was ours, or so I thought, but silver turns to ash.